It is time to go live, and we are live, ladies and gentlemen. We are live. This is your friend Charlie Hunter. It's Benchley night. Anybody watching out there? It's been a while. You know, we started doing these in 2020 when the pandemic started. When the pandemic started, we thought we'll just do some Benchley readings to help cheer people up because my beloved, the great Betty Sue, was reading The Princess Bride, I believe. She was reading The Princess Bride to people, and that seemed to make people very happy. And so I thought I would do a little reading of Robert Benchley, because my father always read Robert Benchley to us. And it was during the pandemic, and that was comforting, and we had a steady hand on the tiller for a few years, and things were going to get better, but things are going back to hell, ladies and gentlemen. Things are going back to hell very, very quickly. But today is the 12th, and our friend returns to the presidency on the 20th. So you have 8 days of sanity left, ladies and gentlemen. 8 days of sanity, if you can call this present time sanity. Oh, and LA, poor LA, ladies and gentlemen. So the best we can do in our little corner of the universe here in Bellows Falls, Vermont, is to read some Robert Benchley. It was a balm to me as a child, and it is a balm to me as an adult. So hopefully you enjoy it. Hi, Martha. Yes, the Benchley night. Yes, Martha says the Benchley night comes from the trains, and that is true. Because Dave Alvin, it turns out that Dave Alvin, Christy McWilson, and I are all Robert Benchley fans. And the very first Benchley night was, I believe, 2017. Correct me if I'm wrong, Martha. 2017 and 2018 for sure. But each of us read Robert Benchley pieces, and people really enjoyed it. So, yeah, when the pandemic hit, I thought I would read some Benchley to help us pass this brief period of national trauma. So we're going to be doing Benchley night for a good long time to come, ladies and gentlemen, a good long time to come. So as you know, we now read all the supporters, the liberal snowplowing do-gooders, at the end of Benchley night, and we get right down into reading Benchley, though I have blathered for 4 minutes. All right. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have two Benchleys. Very brief one at the beginning, the amuse-bouche, as it were, the amuse-bouche. Taking up the cudgels. Somebody named Sir Shah Salamain of Allahabad, India, has seen fit to challenge Professor Albert Einstein's theory of relativity. In the absence of Professor Einstein, I am taking the liberty of replying on his behalf. Einstein's value of the deflection of light from a star as it comes past the sun is 1.75. Sir Shah Salamain's prediction of value is between 2.32 and 2.45. My answer to Sir SS, you're crazy. Einstein's value of the amount of shifting toward red of the spectrum of the light from a limb of the sun is 0.0084. Sir SS predicts that it will be found to be 0.00676. My answer, Poppy. My answer, poppycock. Sir S.'s third prediction concerns the elements of orbits of planes. Orbits of planets. He says that the value for the advance of the perihelion of planet Mercury is less than estimated by Newcomb. My answer, where's Allahabad, India anyway? And who asked you to butt in on all this? We were getting along very nicely with Professor Einstein, who has proven himself to be an extremely pleasant gentleman and an all-round good egg. He also plays the violin. What do you play? That is the trouble with discovering something worthwhile. Sooner or later, some fly-by-night Chief Justice of India, that's what Sir Shah is, a Chief Justice, comes along and says that you're all wrong and that he has discovered something better that will also cure head colds. It's enough to make a man like Einstein throw the whole thing up and just sail boats all the rest of his life. Of course, it's none of my business. But being in more or less the same line of work as Einstein, writing, I feel like we all ought to stand together. Professor Einstein probably will have something more to add to his own defense than what I've outlined here, but this will serve as an opening gun in the rebuttal. I also hereby offer to meet Sir Shah in public debate. That's the first reading, ladies and gentlemen. That's the first reading. A wonder. He's so good. 100 years later, he's so good. It's such a gentle skewering of xenophobia. Anyway, let's see. Martha can't give us a date as to when the first Benchley night was. Just remember fondly those nights in the performance car with various readers. Those were fun. And Christy McWilson would show up wearing her footy pajamas. It was great. Carol Burning, hi from Tennessee, Carol. Susan Williams says hi from Michigan, the Great Lakes state. Pamela Chase says hi, Charlie. Kate Cullors says, hello, aren't we lucky? We are indeed, Kate, we are indeed. All right, well, we've got 12 people watching, and I am thrilled that all of you are here, because here's tonight's feature presentation. Tonight's feature presentation, ladies and gentlemen, A Romance in Encyclopedia-Land. Written after 3 hours of browsing in a new Encyclopedia Britannica set. I love absurdist humor, ladies and gentlemen. I love absurdist humor. And I suppose it's because, A, as a small child, I read my older siblings' copies of Mad Magazine and had no idea what they were actually satirizing. So it just seemed, and I knew everybody laughed at it, so I found it absurdly funny. And then secondly is Benchley, who loved just the goofiness of words. A Romance in Encyclopedia-Land, written after 3 hours browsing in a new Encyclopedia Britannica set. Picture to yourself an early spring afternoon along the banks of the river Ah, which, rising in the Teutoburger Wald, joins the Ver at Hereford. It is navigable as far as St. Omer. Branching bryophytes spread their flat dorsal ventral bodies, closely applied to the substratum upon which they grew, and leafy Carophyllaceae twined their sepals in prodigal profusion, lending a touch of color to the scene. It was clear that nature was in preparation for her estivation. But it was not this which attracted the eye of the young man who, walking along the phonolithic formation of the riverbank, was playing softly to himself upon a double curtail or converted bass palmer, an octave below the single curtail and therefore identical in pitch and construction with the early fagota in C. His mind, instead, was on other things. He was evidently of melanchthonic extraction, with a pentagonal facial angle and strong orbital ridges, but he combined with this the fine lines of a full-blooded native of Cole, where indeed he was born 7 miles west of Kalish Point in Moore, and in full view of the rugged gneiss. As he swung along, there throbbed again and again through his brain the beautiful opening paragraph of Francis Palasik's 1798-1876 Zur Bolmenschen Geschichte bringen, Prague, 1871, written just after the author had refused a portfolio in the Pillersdorf cabinet and had also declined to take part in the preliminary diet at Cromersice. If he could believe such things, why cannot I, murmured the young man, and crushed a ginkgo beneath his feet. Young men are often so. It is due to the elaterium of spring. By Egreskal, he swore softly to himself, I will do it. No sooner had he spoken that he came suddenly out of the tangle of gymnosperms through whose leaves, needle-like and destitute of oil glands as they were, he had been making his way, and emerged to a full view of the broad sweep of the lake of Zug, just where the Lours enters it at its northern extremity, and 1¼ miles east of where it issues again to pursue its course to the Reuss. Zug, at this point, is 1,368 feet above sea level and boasted its first steamship in 1852. Well, he sighed as he gazed upon the broad area of subsidence, if I were now an exarch whose dignity was at one time intermediate. Well, he sighed as he gazed upon the broad area of subsidence, if I were now an exarch whose dignity was at one time intermediate between the patriarchal and the metropolitan, and from whose name has come that of the politico-religious party, the exarchists, I should not be here daydreaming. I should be far away in Footscray, the city of Bourke County, Victoria, Australia. Population in 1901 of 18,301. As he said this, his eyes filled with tears, and under his skin, brown as fustic, there spread a faint flush, such as is often formed by citricide or by pyrochloric acid when acting upon uncured leather. Far down in the valley, the natives were celebrating the birthday of Gambrinus, a mythical Flemish king who is credited with the first brewing of beer. The sound of their voices set in motion longitudinal sound waves, and these, traveling through the surrounding medium, met the surface separating two met the surface separating two media and were in part reflected, traveling back from the surface into their first medium once again, with the velocity to which they approached it, as depicted in figure 10. This caused the echo for which the lake of Zug is justly famous. The twilight began to deepen, and from far above came the twinkling signals of first Boetius, then Coma Berenices, followed a while later by Ursa Major and her little brother, Ursa Minor. Oh, the stars are clear tonight. The stars are clear, he sighed. I wonder if they are visible from the dactyl elevation on which she lives. His was an untrained mind. His only school had been the Eleatic school, the contention of which was the true explanation of things lies in the conception of a universal unity, or the allness of one. But he knew what he liked. In the calm light of the stars, he felt as if an U-Bahn had been lifted from his heart, 5 U-Bahns being equal to 1 quat, 6 quats to 1 amat, and 120 amats to 1 sos. He was free once again. Turning, he walked swiftly down into the valley, passing returning peasants with their baputs, and soon came in sight of the shining lamps of the small but carefully built puros which lined the road. Reaching the corner, he saw the village epi peering. He saw the village epi peering over the treetops and swarms of cicada, with the toothed femoras of their interior legs mingling into a sleepy drone, like so many chichlets. It was all very homelike to the wanderer. Suddenly, there appeared on a neighboring eminence a party of guisards, such as during the Saturnalia and from the Nativity until the Epiphany, were accustomed to sport themselves in odd costumes, all clad in clouting, and evidently returning from taking part in the celebration. As they drew nearer, our hero noted a young woman in the front rank who was playing folk songs on a cromorn with a double reed mouthpiece enclosed in an air reservoir. In spite of the detritus wrought by the festival, there was something familiar about the buccinator of her face and her little mannerism of elevating her second phalanx. It struck him like the flash of a cloud highly charged by the coalescence of drops of vapor. He approached her tenderly, reverently. Lang, Anne Francois Elizabeth, he said. I know you. You are a French actress born in Genoa on the 17th of September, 1772, and you made your first appearance on the stage in L'Écossais in 1788. Your talent and your beauty gave you an enormous success in Pamela. It has taken me years to find you, but now we are united at last. The girl turned like a frightened aardvark, and holding the cromorn in her hand, she smiled. Weenix, Barnaby Bernard, 1777 to 1829, she said very slowly. You started business as publisher in London in 1797. They looked at each other for a moment in silence. He was the first to speak. Miss Lang, Anne, he said, let us go together to Loire and be happy there. Happy as two eyes, or three-toed South American sloths. She lowered her eyes. I will go with you, Mr. Weenix Barney, she said, to the ends of the earth. But why to Lar? Why not to Vem? Because, said the young man, Lar is the capital of Laristan and 27 degrees 30 minutes north, 180 miles from Shiraz, and contains an old bazaar consisting of 4 arcades, each 180 feet long. Their eyes met, and she placed her hands in his, and from the woods came the mellow whinnying of a herd of vip, the wool of which is highly prized for weaving. All right, ladies and gentlemen, all right. That brings joy to my heart. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening. If you feel like listening to the credits now, here are the liberal snowplowing do-gooders who are paid members of my Substack, which used to be my mailing list, but it's now my Substack. And if you are a paid member, know that every penny that you donate gets passed on to one quixotic do-gooder charity or another. I think for the next 4 years, there's going to be a lot of donating to things like ProPublica, Center for, Media Studies, basically trying to keep the free press alive. It's not looking good, ladies and gentlemen, not looking good around here. But join me now in thanking the following. And you can join their numbers if you wish. Ms. Carol Burning, Ms. Kate Fry, Rita Bruins, my favorite stalker from Atlanta, who's now moved to Mexico. No fool, Rita. Ann Cousins, Lizzie Grosso, Nancy Bass, Nancy Flanagan, Christina Stockman, Busy Graham, Catherine Fisher, Nancy Radzik, Deborah Lovett, Susan McNeil, Marlon Gibson, Terry Widener, great illustrator, ladies and gentlemen, M.J. Brush, Jean Fry, Helen Siksek, Sonia Jackson, James Gilbraith, Jeb Hart, Cindy Baker, John T. Wilhelm out there in Omaha, Nebraska, Elizabeth Swartz, Martha Rowley in Saxons River, Vermont, and yes, Martha, the porch drop was received, and thank you. S.A. Dalton, my very first art collector in Bellows Falls, Vermont, when I first moved here in 1999. He was the first person to buy one of my paintings here in town. He's a good man, ladies and gentlemen. He's a good man, and he joins us this week, Mr. Jimmy Malley. And out there in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, out there in Pittsburgh, where John Fetterman goes against the grain of democratic orthodoxy. Not sure how I feel about that, but out there where Mr. Fetterman is doing that, right near Braddock, Pennsylvania, just on a clear day, his shadow, the shadow he casts in Pittsburgh, goes all the way to Braddock. A very, very, very tall cousin, Mr. Nat Hunter, and his wonderful wife, Elise, and their little dog, Ginger. Thank you all so much. Thank you for joining us tonight. We'll be back next week for another Benchley night. Please join us. If we don't hang together, we're all certainly going to hang separately. See you soon. Bye-bye.